Welcome to Talking Out Cloud, the podcast where we discuss the latest development in IT and cloud. In today's episode, FinOps. Public clouds, they are expensive, and is FinOps the answer? Let's talk. Good morning.
Good morning, Wesley.
We're back.
We are back.
And today is FinOps.
FinOps.
It's all about the money. We've said it in many episodes before.
Yeah.
It's all about money. But so FinOps. I have something to set the scene. So the definition of FinOps, or at least what I found, and I found this one quite appealing.
Yeah.
A cultural practice combining financial accountability with operational responsibility. So it's not just the CFO's problem.
No.
It's everyone's problem.
It's an organizational problem, supplier problem, everybody, I think.
And I mean, it's becoming more and more popular. You even have like the FinOps framework, and you have tools and standards and processes that can help you with it. But in the end, it's also about realization, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Like you said, financial overview of your business is very important. And me as an operational member, I also carry on the responsibility to not click everything unenabled in the Azure cloud, because that can be really expensive. So it's a responsibility. We all care.
I think that's also maybe the result of so back in we keep saying this back in the day.
Back in
old
the
people
day,
talking.
yeah.
Now, when we before public clouds, or maybe before clouds in general, it's CAPEX versus OPEX, right? So back in the day, we used to do an investment for the next 5 years or 4 years, and then we write the hardware off in a couple of years. So you would invest.
Yeah.
And now we pay per use. So every month we get a bill for what we used.
It's a different mindset, eh? It's like you said, 10 years ago, you make an IT budget for a whole year. You know exactly what your expenses were. And now it can be different. So if you not taking care of that properly, bills can be very big.
You could say that before public clouds, that budgets were more predictable.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, like what you said, like dealing with very big Excel sheets, and we called them, loosely translated, we call them long-term investment plans for IT.
Yes.
Where it was like, this year we buy 2 HP DL360 servers, and next year we'll buy another 2, and then we add memory on the 3rd year, and then we extend our care pack on the 4th year for the 5th year, and then we write it off, and then we can see how much longer we can use it.
Yeah.
And then you would use it longer to, essentially, have better value from your investment.
Exactly. And when your hardware was being taken care of, it was 5 years later. You can use that hardware to use it for other purposes, but you know exactly what your investment was.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
And you will buy a new one, and now at the end of the month, if someone clicked something somewhere, it's going to cost you.
There's the bill shock.
That bill shock, exactly.
Yeah.
I think we've seen it with customers as well, and non-customers also, where we were flown in to come up with some recommendation, like, hey, what happened?
Yeah.
And it's usually when someone's like, this is very cool new tech. And I mean, Microsoft is very good at marketing. So there's like amazing tech out there, and let's do Synapse back then, and all these cool databases.
Yeah.
And then you clicked it, and then you forget. Usually, I mean, maybe that's we got study time on Friday afternoon.
Yep.
A lot of people at INSEP do the study time on Friday afternoon, like end of the week. You're wrapping up. Hopefully, you cleaned your sprint board and you're all good. So you've got some time to invest in yourself and do some study time.
Yeah.
When it's 5 o'clock, you're like, I'm gonna call the week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go into the weekend, and then you forget to delete that one single thing.
And that can be a really expensive study material then.
Yeah,
definitely.
And we've seen it with customers where it's going to cost tens of thousands of euros.
When customers want to have a proof of concept or something like that, it can be also really expensive a proof of concept when you don't delete the resource or make an agreement with the customer to say, hey, we will leave it on for a week, but keep in mind that.
Yeah.
And it's something it's something like a different point of view when you're creating resource, I guess.
Would you say that the bill shock is also the result of, one, it's like you're not figuring out what it's going to cost, but would it also be because a lot of people do their R&D through ClickOps?
Oh yeah, definitely. Click it all together.
Yeah, but I mean, and then
yes,
I mean,
yes.
let's say your scenario is that proof of concept.
Yeah.
And you do that on a Friday afternoon, you click it, and it takes you 3 hours. You're not going to delete it.
You're not going to delete it, but also if you don't know the resource itself, and you want to click it all together, it's fine. But it will ask you all stuff. Do you want a logging account? Do you want to have diagnostics enabled? Do you want to have firewall? Do you etc. All those different resources connected to maybe one resource. It will cost you a lot of money.
And then we're like kids in a candy shop, right? Oh, I want that. Yes. I want it. I want it. And let's go.
That is probably I don't want to say it's wrong to do that, but it's more like you want to have more clarity on what you are doing in the Azure in the public cloud, I guess.
And maybe that's the challenge because we used to do an investment for the next 4 years, and now we deal with operational expense, so we move to OPEX to a different model.
Yeah,
but we still budget for a year, right?
Definitely.
It's still that at the end we do that in Incept as well.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, let's do the budgeting for next year.
Yeah.
So the budget is set.
Also, because if you have your production environment, you can use some graphical overviews to see your growth or your stability in every month. So you can make a rough estimation what you will have on your production environment when you at the end of the year. So yeah, you can make overviews, and you can probably make budgets based on some historical figures.
Yeah, there's good data available to build that budget, but then the problem is if someone does some fun R&D stuff, then
it's all gone.
Yeah, I mean the budgets, the cloud is elastic, budgets are not. They're set for the next year. So it's a team and operational responsibility.
It's a responsibility for
to make sure you don't click. And then we work with customers, and then we have customers that pay the bill at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So for us, when the customer asks us, "Hey, can you figure out how that works?" or "I want to use this new technology," and then we go, "Oh, we'll do a proof of concept." Then it's us generating consumption that the customer has to pay with. It's like we're using their credit card.
That is a really good mindset if you think about that you're getting the credit card from the customer and say I will click everything you don't want me to do, but I do that as maybe in a goodwill. But yeah, it is using their credit card. Yeah. So that's why you clever and good. Yeah, need to think about it. Yeah, definitely.
And then if we look at FinOps, and it's like a multi-tier process. It's not, and I want to make this as clear as I can. Whenever I hear people talking about FinOps, they go, "Let's do Azure Reservations." That is just a very small piece of. I get frustrated when I talk about it because everyone, let's do reservations because. That's how you do FinOps.
That's not FinOps, I guess. Yeah, it's a part of FinOps.
It's a very small part.
It's a small part.
It starts with how Azure is purchased, right? How do you purchase Azure? Do you do the credit card? Do you get an invoice at the end of the month?
Yeah.
Do you use a CSP? Do you do a tier 1 or tier 2 model? Do you get an enterprise agreement? I mean, there's many different options to purchase Azure.
Definitely.
And also there you want to take things into account. I mean, one example, and then we go through the different models. But as an MVP, I also get some sponsorship subscriptions. And we, as Incept with Visual Studio subscriptions, we get the same. Right? We get a small, we get some credits, and then we could do that for our own. We can use it for our learning, etc. But with actual sponsorship subscriptions, and even as a partner for Microsoft, you can get one, or our customers sometimes get one. You have to attach a credit card to it.
Yeah.
It's before you use, you have to do that.
Yeah.
But a sponsorship means it runs for 12 months or until you run out of credits.
Yeah.
So let's say you get 10,000 credits, $10,000 of usage.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is an amazing playground. You attach a credit card to it. Amazing playground.
Yeah.
You deploy everything because you got it for free. You're going to play with everything. And then you run out of the 10K. Or it's end of the month and the sponsorship runs out.
Yeah.
And then the next month,
you'll
get a message from your credit card provider going,
What's happening?
Nope, it's maxed out. You have a problem.
Yeah, then you have so it's good to know what you are doing in the cloud, especially when you're clicking all those big resources.
And I think if we look at how do you purchase Azure, use it starts with pay as you go. That's the credit card thing, right? You can attach a credit card and go at it.
Yeah, you will pay it you will pay the month before that. So, but it's directly connected to a credit card. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's the pay as you go is global list price. It's like the Azure calculator.
Yeah.
We can see the pricing, and that's always a global list price. So how that works is you have the global list price in dollars, and then you have an exchange rate to euros, and that's what you pay if you're in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Then you have enterprise agreements.
Yeah.
Which there's not many of them out there anymore, right? It's in the word enterprise.
Yeah, it's in the word. The big enterprise companies used to have that. I think, but if I'm now a big company, do I need an enterprise agreement?
I think it depends on how big, and I think there's like a minimum consumption that you have to have, and it's also provided directly by Microsoft.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we also had EA agreements provided by like resellers.
Yeah.
That no longer happens directly by Microsoft. And if you're big enough and Microsoft wants you as a customer, they can give you insane discounts on your consumption. Why would you do that? If you go through a CSP, you can also get a discount, but there's a maximum to that because that's provided by a provider.
Yep.
And this is done directly by Microsoft, so they can give you much, much higher percentage of discount. Also, it's easy for them to give you sponsorship subscriptions. But the thing is also you commit for a number of years and you commit for a specific number in terms of consumption.
Yep.
Let's say I will commit to 1.5 million of consumption in a year's time. My discount counts only for that 1.5 million. So if I go over, I pay the global list price. If I go under, it's tough luck.
Yeah.
So it's but for big enterprises who have good FinOps practices and think about this, it can be very, very good to have an EA agreement.
Cool.
And then we have the CSPs.
Yeah, MCA.
MCA, yeah. So that's what they did a while ago. They moved from traditional CSP agreements, they still exist, to MCAs and MPAs. So you have the Microsoft Customer Agreement, and then you have the Microsoft Partner Agreement. And if you are a CSP, you provide an MCA through your MPA. So our customers have an MCA through us as an MPA. The thing there is it was all thought of to make things easier. Even with CSP, right? You had you used to do licensing and stuff back in the day as well as ops. So did I. I mean, you had volume licensing where you could log in and get a key or something, and then you had EA and open and volume. I don't know it. And they said, no, let's make it easier. Let's do CSP.
Yeah, and is it easier?
It was for the first year, and then they started stuffing everything in CSP.
Everything in CSP.
Now it's just insanely complex.
Yeah, it's very big and much details.
Yeah. But how it works as a CSP, you can do it direct and indirect. So we're a direct currently. Is our customers, they get an MCA through our MPA, which means that their billing goes through our billing account.
Yeah.
Which means that we pay Microsoft and the customer pays us.
Yes.
And then if we have access to the customer environment and we manage stuff and we have the correct level of access, we get what's called partner earned credits.
Yes.
Which is by default, you can get a 15% discount if you are the only partner having access. And then as a CSP, you can tell your customer, so you get this percentage discount, and then the other is margin for you because being a CSP costs money with all the certifications you have to have.
Yeah.
Support contract, you need the advanced support for partner stuff. So you use a percentage to be a CSP and you use a percentage to give a discount to your customer. So they would pick you over the pay-as-you-go.
Yeah.
I think you're not really competing with EAs, you're competing with pay-as-you-go.
It's different. Yeah, it's true.
And then you also have the MCA directly by Microsoft, which is like a level below the EA. But it's that's where FinOps starts. What do you pick? Do you go for the partner earned credits and get a little bit discount? Are you big enough? Do you get an EA? Or are you still a bit unsure whether you want to use the public cloud, and do you just go with pay-as-you-go for a couple of months?
I think pay-as-you-go is, like you said, if you want to try Azure or public cloud, it's a really good opportunity to get your foot into that world, to test something, to test the functionality, and then if I was a company, I always want to have another company that's specialized in that specific scenario, and then an MCA or a CSP is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree, because a CSP also is required to provide you with billing data, and support you in your contacts to Microsoft. And the CSP billing, you've got these invoice and the reconciliation files. They are insanely complex. I mean, we build our own product to manage that and to go from millions of lines in Excel sheets to actual bills that we can send to our customers automated, which was one of our biggest wins in the past couple of years, automating that process.
So. Yeah, definitely.
So then you purchase Azure, you're using it, you deploy stuff.
Yes.
And then there's two big ways to initially save money: reservations and savings plans.
Yes.
Why would you do reservations?
Because you have more stability and know what's coming up in the next couple of years. You can do reservation 1 year or 3 years. But it also have as a little bit of a downside, I think, because you need not a downside, but you need to know your workloads, and if you will work with the same workloads in the whole year. So when you, for example, have a workload of service you want to reserve, you know, hey, I have a D of an E series and want to work with that, you can say, hey, reserve it for a year, and then you will have a discount on that. And there are some little things you can do when you want to change, for example, a SKU. You can exchange, or you can transfer the reservation as well if you stay under an amount of money. But that's a reservation.
32K or something like that. It was
50K. 50K. Oh. But keep in mind that this always can be changed. So if I talk about reservations, you can certainly think about reservations. You need to do that, but you also need to think before you reserve, because you can exchange, but if you go above that amount,
you pay a fine, right?
You pay a fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to reservations is you make that decision based on historical data. I think the portal provides 60 or 90 days. I think that's not enough. You want to do because it's compute. So you do it for at least a year, and you never do it with the intent to cancel, you said. So you have compute. You've been using it for at least 6 months, and then without scaling, right? So you use that SKU for same months. And then what are your plans for the next 6 months? What are your plans for the next year? Because if you're planning to completely redo your product roadmap, and you're going to change the product significantly, and get a bunch of developers, nearshore them, and rebuild your products on something else than compute, maybe you're going to containerize them, then you probably don't want to do this.
Now, if you know that your work will be hosted within 6 months or 8 months on another platform, don't do it.
No. So it's a great way to save a percentage, and then you get a lower percentage for 1 year, but a higher percentage of savings for 3 years because you commit to it longer. I'm maybe unpopular opinion. I'd say never do 3-year reservations, because SKUs change. If we see the developments in public cloud, how fast we get new hardware, which is more efficient and cheaper with better CPU to memory ratios. There's a lot that changes in 3 years, but if you're committed to 3 years, then tough luck.
It's tough.
I'd say 1 year, 1 year max.
1 year is for me also the max.
And then we have savings plans, which essentially, I mean, we rarely use it.
No, exactly.
This really comes down to planning, like good planning, because you get a lower hourly rate for what's running in a subscription based on historical data and So you can commit. You can even change the percentage or change the number.
Yeah.
But you commit to it for a year. There's no changing. There's no cancellation.
No,
that's what you pay.
That's actually paying for your workload in comparison with the reservation. I was saying reservation is more like reserve to compute.
Yeah, and utilization.
Yeah. To be honest, I hardly advise saving plans because I find it a really difficult metric to give advice for.
Yeah, I tried to do the calculation with the customer once, and then we said, all right, before we do this, let's first do reservations.
Yeah.
Utilize them, see what the utilization is, and then we can do savings plans. And it was
definitely
what we found was that for dynamic workloads, so in this case was AKS and pretty big node pools.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that the SKU would remain static for at least a year. So reservations on the VM skill sets for the node pools, definitely a good idea. Saves a lot of money.
Yeah.
But they scale.
Yeah.
So consumption plans, savings plans, it was not worth it. It was, you wouldn't say, if you would run the same compute, like static, for 12 months, then this would be good for you. But I'd say if you do nothing in subscription, you host it, it's a product. Maybe the use case, still unpopular opinion. Let's say you have a product that you're not going to improve it. You're just milking it until, you build the next product.
Exactly.
So it's static there. Then you do the savings plan.
Yeah.
All right. But then reservation, we said it, there's more to it than reservations, right?
Yeah.
So we can click it, we can do reservations, but the real FinOps starts when we go deeper, right?
Yeah.
That's when you start looking at the product and what you're using and why you're using it.
Exactly.
Logging, good example.
Logging is a good example. Look at your environment. Check if you're. So the first thing when I hear people talk about FinOps is always saying, look at the Ghost resource and that sort of stuff.
So what's a Ghost resource?
Yeah, that's a resource that's not being used. And like for example, you clean up a virtual machine and you will not clean up the public IP address if you have one, for example, or the disk.
Yeah.
So that will cost money. If you have a big company and you will clean it up, you will probably save some money. But I think the best way to do it is to check if the environment you are running needs to be running 24/7. I guess. Think about scaling plans.
Yeah. Does everything need to run 24/7?
Exactly. But also maybe look at modernization. I guess if you have running stuff on an old-fashioned virtual machine, expensive virtual machine, maybe a PaaS solution will benefit for your cost in future purposes.
Oh, that's nice, because the next episode we're going to talk about PaaS and
that's
EIs and SaaS.
good
This is good.
bridge,
A little bridge, yeah. And I'd also say, so an example is, and that's more the example to put people in the right mindset when it comes to FinOps. I mean, yes, you can purchase reservations, you can do B series virtual machines, and we'll talk about that in a bit, because doing that and saving money also requires you to invest in good monitoring.
Yeah.
But let's say a good example I had with the customer was they had debug logging enabled
that's good.
in production.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to see that logging, and in case something went wrong, they wanted to see what happened.
Yeah.
And I get that. But you can't just turn logging on or off in a production environment without restarting stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then again, this was running in containers. So first we saw the logs for the logging for the STD out of the container. That's what it's called. Mm-hmm. We saw that growing significantly month over month, until a point where we said, well, that's like a significant percentage of your monthly spend, which goes to log analytics.
Yeah.
So we started investigating that. And this for me is FinOps. We look at that. Why is that? Sure. What's in there? Oh, it's debug logging. Customer, do you need it? Yes, but not always. Okay, so what is a way? Can we provide an environment variable where we dynamically enable the debug logging? Yes or no? I mean, it's a container. It restarts very quickly. Can we do that? Yes, we can. All right, let's build that.
Yeah.
And this decreased the logging, the consumption on logging with 75%
that's
in a
amazing.
month. That's a lot, but that's For me, that's FinOps. You have a CFO who's accountable, and then you have teams who are responsible and look at this and then do it.
Yeah, that's a good example.
And the answers are, I just said it, B-series virtual machines.
Yeah.
They're burstable.
Burstable. Yeah, they will. You can use your credits for the CPU. Your CPU credits based on that is basically what a burstable machine is. So it's cheap, but if you use that in production, you will probably have some problems maybe later on. If you use that because that's a SKU that's basically used for dev and for test environments, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you want, you can use that also to lower cost. But the question is then, what investment do you want to, and what is the risk you want to take, lowering your cost using a B series? That's
Because it's got a baseline of what you can use.
Yeah.
And then you can burst.
Yeah.
Like that's your peak moment.
That's your peak moment.
But you have to run in that baseline for a significant time to save up credits that you can then use for the bursting.
Yeah.
So you need like a monitoring solution for credit management.
But that's a good thing. So you can monitor you can do monitoring and then see, hey, my workload is for over a month on this level, and then maybe some SKUs are suited for running on those. But then you need monitoring in place, maybe some tagging. So yeah.
So B series is not always the answer to FinOps.
No. No, not always. Not
no,
always.
I think the ramifications for production scenarios, let's not do domain controllers on B series and stuff.
No.
You don't want to end up with I ran out of credits and now it's very slow for people to log in.
Yeah.
You don't want to have that.
No, you don't want to have that. It's maybe it gives you a problem on the long term, I guess. Yeah.
All right, and then I think before we move into guardrails, I think we just mentioned monitoring. I think what would be good in FinOps is you build dashboards and give insights into actual day-to-day costs. Mm-hmm. So when ops people who write infrastructure as code or dev people who write code and deploy products can see what's the impact of what you deployed. Yeah. So tomorrow morning, I wake up, I open my dashboard, I can see what the impact was of the stuff I deployed yesterday.
That's a good one.
And measure that day over day to give people a feeling of what's happening. And not everyone has a feeling with it's going to cost €1,500 a day, €1,500 a day. Not everyone knows, is that expensive for my company? Is that cheap for my company? I don't know. But if you can see that the percentage of the increase, that visualization helps people realize.
That's really, and then, like you said, if you want to do that, you also need to take that in account when you're deploying your resources in infrastructure as code. Mm-hmm. For example, if you want to have some more oversight and you want to use dashboards, you also need to deploy your purposes. So your Azure purpose or your Azure goal and separate that, then maybe using different subscriptions, different resources, so you should have some better overview.
Cost allocation, yeah.
So, for example, if I want to deploy an Azure Virtual Desktop, do that in one particular resource group with your storage account, every resource connected to that AVD in one resource group, so you know exactly how much that will cost you per month.
Yeah. All right, and then this is all plannable, but there's also guardrails we can implement, right?
Yeah.
We can set budgets.
Yeah.
And you have anomaly detection. That's all built in Azure Cost Management. It's a very good solution.
Yeah.
Also, for the people listening, if you are using Azure through a CSP and you cannot see your costs in cost management, there's a box they can tick.
Yeah.
Ask them, because you can use. I still get the question. Yeah. You cannot do cost management CSP. No, that's not true.
No, you can.
That's your CSP being lazy. They just need to click a button or tick a box.
Exactly.
But then guardrails, Azure policy. How does that help me?
Now you can use Azure policy in your environment to say, hey, let's say I want to deploy virtual machines, but as a company, I don't want you that I can deploy, let's say, graphical machines and NCM.
GPUs,
very expensive machines. So say, okay, you can only deploy D and E series a little bit cheaper. So you can use Azure policies to say, to give you the boundaries in your environment.
Yeah, so I can restrict people from deploying the expensive stuff.
Exactly.
And on the other hand, we have quota management in a subscription where you can. So let's say we can do the DS2 V5 VMs. I can only deploy so many of them.
Yeah.
And then I need quota management. I need to request new quota, which is done through a support ticket. So not everyone can do that.
You need to have special rights for that. So it's also something you can have boundaries for. And I also think maybe use tagging on resources to also know who is deploying what.
That is, you mentioned ghost or orphaned resources earlier. I think that tagging what's deployed, the number of times, we had it as well, internal subscriptions. You go into a subscription, you go, do we really need that? Yeah. Who deployed it? It was deployed 2 years ago. It was never tagged. Who deployed it?
Yeah.
Are we afraid to delete it?
Yes. So sometimes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sometimes.
So, I mean, even that. Yeah. So, tag who deployed it. We do that. We've done that for a while now. So you can actually see the email address and you know who deployed it. And tag what environment is it? Is it prod, dev, acceptance, test?
Yeah,
what is it?
It's a good one. You can also give the boundary to your infrastructure as code. So say you can only deploy something when it's tagged. And also use an Azure policy for that to say, hey, I only accept tag resources.
Yeah. No tags. And then which tag as well.
Which tag as well. Which region.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap up FinOps, it's not just a project.
No.
It's something.
So, it's a way of work, I guess. A way of is it?
It should be part of your daily practice. It's never done. It's I think if you look at we call everything ops, SysOps, DevOps, FinOps, GreenOps, SustainOps, Ops. Yeah. I don't know, but it should be. You have FinOps practices. Let's say you're a DevOps team. Whatever you do, if you have a good example, security as well. DevSecOps. I know I'm done with ops, but let's say you have a GitHub issue where you refine it, and then part of that issue should be what is the impact on costs, what is the impact on security, those two things, and then have everyone has access to the data on cost. You need to democratize it. Everyone needs to have access. Everyone needs to see the visuals. Everyone needs to realize it should be part of your day-to-day business, your day-to-day tasks.
I think so. I think it's part of good housekeeping, I guess.
It's hygiene.
Yeah.
It's I agree. All right. So it's not just a project. It's never done. You always need to do it.
You need to. Yeah, definitely.
All right. And with that, we're closing on the subject of FinOps.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you for listening. And
thank you, Wesley.
On to the next one.
Hey,
thank you.
One.